Hey everyone, thank you for joining me today. We're going to be talking about making Pinterest your #1 lead generator. So, if you're really curious about how to use Pinterest for business, this is the workshop for you. I'm super excited. Thank you, Aisle Planner, for hosting us today. But I'm excited to really share my story with you on how we've made this quote unquote social media, because let's be real, it's not. We'll get into that. But this social media platform, how it's become one of our #1 lead generators for some of our biggest clients in the wedding planning process. So before we get to that, I should probably introduce myself. I am not just a voice here behind your screen. My name is Gabby Pinkerton, and I am the founder of 'Cause We Can Events. It's a destination wedding planning company for adventurous couples. Now, we started out in 2012. We were a cause-based business. We were doing a lot of events for nonprofits, which is where it got its name from, 'Cause We Can Events. See what we did there? And it actually grew into now a six-figure off the grid, like festival style wedding planning business. And we have spent $0 in marketing during this process. So, okay, I will confess there was one time about 5 years ago I did spend $150 on an ad or a vendor profile with one of the blogs there, the wedding blogs. But since then, we have not put any money into marketing. So we really depend on Pinterest, we depend on blogging, a little bit of Instagram, but we'll talk about kind of the difference between Pinterest and Instagram in a second. But basically, we get a lot of traffic from Pinterest directly to our website. And from our website, this is where we convert potential clients into actual paying couples. So today on the agenda, we are going to talk about, like I said, Pinterest versus Instagram, pros and cons, and why we love Pinterest so much more than Instagram. We'll talk about how to optimize your profile on Pinterest and some strategies there. And then we'll talk about a weekly pinning strategy for you guys. Now, this is great for any type of wedding vendor, no matter if you're a wedding planner or a baker or a DJ, this is still something you can use. And then we'll talk about the most updated Pinterest best practices. So in early 2020, they did come out with some new best practices that have changed the algorithm a little bit. And so it's important to kind of, I'm going to say the word of the year, pivot, and get used to those new best practices. So enough chit chat, let's just jump right into this because this is why you guys are here, and I'm big about skipping the fluff and getting right into the meat of the topic. So let's talk about Pinterest versus Instagram for a second. Here's the great thing about Pinterest, if you don't know this already. So using it for business is completely different than really using it as a user. Pinterest is all about, well, first of all, in case you didn't see this number here, there are 40 million people who use Pinterest to plan their wedding. Let's think about that for a second. 40 million people all over the world, all different styles. I mean, there is a client for everybody that is listening to this right now. There's a client for all of you on Pinterest. So keep that in mind. Now, the cool thing about Pinterest is that it's all about searchable descriptions as opposed to Instagram that's more about storytelling, right? So when you're writing your Instagram post, you know you have to kind of create like a caption that's going to trigger something for them, or they're gonna want to respond, they're gonna want to comment, they're going to want to like, or you're gonna have some type of storytelling that happens on Instagram. Whereas Pinterest, yes, we're not being robotic, we're not going to do any keyword stuffing, which means kind of putting a bunch of keywords separated by commas. We don't want to do that, but we are going to be a little more strategic about using searchable terms and searchable keywords in our titles and in our descriptions, and we're going to talk about hashtags at one point. So I love that about this platform. Now, the other thing is the average pin, so the photo that you add on Pinterest has an average, or sorry, the average pin has a 4-month lifespan. What does that mean? That means that the image that you add on Pinterest has the potential of staying visible to people for 4 months on average. Now, we've had some of our most popular pins last years. Like, one of the big reasons why we specialize in festival style weddings is because the first time we did a festival style wedding in the Moab desert, it got featured on a blog, and we pinned all of the images from that blog post, and they are continuing to get searched today. So I get many, many repins, saves, clicks to my website thanks to that one blog post. And this was a blog post that was live in, I believe, 2016. So 4+ years later, these are bringing some of our highest paying clients. And we all know on the flip side, Instagram doesn't really have that lifespan, right? So as soon as you post your image, it's really popular in the moment, in the now, but within a few hours, if not sooner, it gets buried in the feed and really doesn't resurface much after the 24 hours that day, right? So that's the cool thing about Pinterest. It has just a longer lifespan for any content that you put on the platform. Okay, and the other thing is you don't get penalized for using a scheduler, at least not right now. So I know that on Instagram, if you use something to plan out your posts, which we do because, listen, nobody has time to create authentic content in the moment all the time. So I know that the engagement is a lot lower when we share with a scheduler. Whereas on Pinterest, we use a program called Tailwind, and it is a direct partnership with Pinterest. So they work hand in hand together. Like, they're called, I guess, marketing partners. And so you don't get penalized for scheduling out your pins. And not only that, but Pinterest doesn't want you to like bulk upload all of these pins at once and then fall off the face of the earth for 3 weeks, right? They want you to slowly leak these pins onto the platform like every few hours or a few a day. And then they want you to continue that and be consistent. I mean, that's like any platform out there. Consistency is key. And one more thing that I'll mention here is don't forget, Pinterest is actually a visual search engine. It's not so much a social media platform. Like, we're not dependent on followers, we're not dependent on engagement such as likes or comments in order to be successful on Pinterest. So right now we have about 1,000 followers on Pinterest, but we have close to 500,000 views and thousands of clicks onto our website every month. So I'm not really worried about people following me or not. So definitely keep that in mind. It's a lot less pressure when you think about the platform that way. Okay, now that we've talked a little bit about how to use the platform, let's talk about how to optimize your Pinterest profile. So we're going to go through 4 steps here. We're going to talk about changing your profile name and contact information. We're going to talk about adding a searchable description. We're going to talk about claiming your website and social media accounts. I really just focus on Instagram here, but if you are an Etsy shop user or Shopify, you can add these in here and we'll go into that. And last but not least, the most important, we're going to talk about adding keywords to your board titles. So the keywords part is going to be kind of a strong theme here when using Pinterest. So keep that in mind. We'll talk a little bit about what I call long tail keywords. And what that means is that it's a combination of 3 or more words to create one keyword. So keep that in mind here, and I'll explain a little bit more. Okay, buckle up, here we go. So first thing, let's talk about changing your profile name to reach your ideal client. So here's the thing. When, sadly, someone is searching for you in the search bar, they're not going to put in your business name, then they're not going to put in your first name. So as cool as I like to think I am sometimes, no one is searching for Cuz We Can events in that Pinterest search bar. I know, it's a huge bummer, and I'm going to break it to you, they're probably not doing that for you either. But we have the opportunity to attract them by using some very specific keywords. So look here, this is the kind of the edit settings of my profile, and I have my name here, Cause We Can Event, and then I use a little vertical bar divider. You can choose whatever you want here. I just thought this looks clean. And then I add some keywords next to it like adventurous wedding planning and elopements. So my long tail keyword, and remember, that's a combination of 3 or more words together. My long tail keyword here is adventurous wedding planning. Now, I also added a keyword that is elopements, and it is just a fact that it is trending right now. I mean, if you guys are here in 2020 in the wedding industry, elopements are pretty much the only thing we can get away with right now. So that is what I wanted to make sure I highlighted in my profile name. Now I'm using my long tail keywords in the adventurous wedding style, right? So this is not for everybody, and I just know who my ideal client is. If you don't 100% want to niche into, or want to specialize in this specific niche or any specific niche, but that you do want to stay in a geographical location, then this is a really good place to add the name of a city or a state or country, something that you want to make clear to your ideal client. So if you're, I always use the example of a cake designer or baker. If you can't deliver cakes outside of, let's say, Los Angeles, then it'd be in your best interest here to say, your company name with a little divider and say Los Angeles cake designer, right? So that serves as a long tail keyword because you're not only mentioning a location, which is easily searched for, but you're also adding that as your third word. So Los Angeles, let's call it, that could be one word, or really it's two, cake and designer. That is your long tail keyword for your title. Okay, the next section you're going to focus on is your profile description. Now, think of it not just as a box with however many 250 characters or whatnot to tell people who you are, but think of it as another opportunity that Pinterest is giving you to add searchable keywords. Now remember, you want those keywords to be a long tail keyword, so kind of 3 words or more. It could be location related, it could be a style, like we do adventure weddings, it could be glam, it could be rustic, however you want to go about it. This is your chance to add those keywords. Now, do not keyword stuff. Remember, we don't want to add a bunch of keywords with commas in between. Pinterest is smarter than us, and their algorithm is able to kind of find those and flag the people that do that. So what we're going to do here is obviously you're going to be limited in your number of characters again. So I write destination wedding planner for adventurous couples. Desert weddings plus woodsy elopements are my jam. Get your free wedding budget planner, and I have a link. So a few things here. I added a keyword to be destination wedding planner. In my mind, I'm not saying this is the most popular keyword by any means, but it is something that I want to show up for. I also add more of a trendy keyword, which is desert weddings. Now notice this is only 2 words, and it is okay to add 2 words because people will still search for 2 words. But the more specific you are and the more times you can use a long tail keyword, the better. But don't limit yourself. If there is a trendy keyword, like right now, drip cakes are popular, and elopements, even just elopements or beach elopement is really popular. So don't try to force yourself to find a third word if you can't. Just use those 2. So after I've added some important keywords here, I actually chose to link to a freebie for potential couples. Now the challenge here is that in order for them to get to this URL, they do have to highlight it and put it in their browser. So they can't just click on it, unfortunately, but it is still a great opportunity for them if they want a free budget planner. And look, I've added another keyword here, wedding budget planner. I know for a fact that's something that is searched a lot, so I want them to find me in their search, and maybe they'll go and get my freebie, and then they'll get on my email list. Okay, so once you've figured out your description, you're going to want to go back to your settings under the claim button. This is where we're going to claim your website and your social media accounts. Now you're probably wondering, why do I need to do this? This just seems annoying. And listen, it's just not the most fun thing to do. It is a little techy, but I found some really great YouTube videos that walk you through how to do this on WordPress and how to do this on Squarespace and so on. So if you feel stuck on the tech side of things, just go to YouTube and take a look. I also have some resources and some videos on my blog, so you can go to gabbypinkerton.com/blog for those. But here's why you need to claim your website. First of all, you get that little verified check mark next to your name, and I think if we're all on Instagram, that's kind of something we want in life, is a verified check mark. But it's actually even more important on Pinterest, because the content that you put on your website should ideally be coming, the content that you put on Pinterest should ideally be coming from your website. The reason being, as soon as someone sees that image on Pinterest and they click on it, that link should lead them to something you own, right? That is the best place you're going to be able to convert them. So what I do is I'm pinning directly from my blog post for the most part, and I'll talk about that in the next few slides. But by claiming my website, I'm telling Pinterest that I am the owner of that website, and so anything that gets pinned from that website is a boost to me, right? So whether it be me pinning my own images from my website or a user pinning images from my website, it all links back to me, and I am the verified owner. Now, for photographers out there, this is also really important to avoid plagiarism. We've gotten some questions in the past about, what happens if someone steals my photo? Like, they can download the image and then re-upload it and link it to their own URL. Well, Pinterest, with its very smart algorithm, has changed and helped us in 2020 to avoid that. So what happens now is, and we'll talk about the best practices, I don't want to overwhelm you here, but in a nutshell, they're prioritizing content that has been seen for the first time on the platform. So if you upload an image that you own from your website onto the platform, that is the first time Pinterest sees it, right? So you get all these great stats and you get lots of clicks on your website, lots of views, lots of saves. Now, if someone downloads that same image and tries to link it to a different website, wah, wah, wah. Nothing really is going to happen for them, or very little. So that's really great for you, the owner of the media, because Pinterest is smart enough to realize that that person who stole it was not the creator of and the original owner of that image. Oh my gosh, side note, you guys, I'm sure you can hear in the background, my dogs were being so bad. I think that's just how 2020 is, right? It's just everybody knows when you're on a call, and so everybody's extra loud. So anyway, okay, next up, we're going to talk about, again, keywords and adding them to your board titles. So your long tail keywords are going to serve you in several ways, right? They're serving you in your description, your profile. So your profile name, your profile description, and now we're going to look at them for your board titles. They'll also come in handy when you're writing your pin captions or your pin descriptions, because you want to use them again. Like, the whole goal here is to target the person who is typing that in the search bar, because they're not going to be able to find us otherwise. So for example, my ideal client is obviously an adventurous style couple. Maybe there's boho terms involved. There's usually destination or desert or festival. Those are all kind of keywords that I know my ideal clients really like. So some of my boards here are examples for you guys. So desert and destination weddings. Now you notice there's the 3 dots. So as much as possible, you want to try to find keywords that people can see, that's not so long that you get cut off. So this is kind of okay, because they know that the word WEDDI is going to be most likely wedding. Festival style weddings is probably my favorite because it is very much very specific. Like someone browsing a ballroom wedding for or on Pinterest browsing ballroom wedding photos is never going to land on my page, and that's fine because that's really not who I'm targeting as a couple. Also talk a lot. One of my boards here is boho wedding dresses. Now, side little note for you guys, anything involving style, so like dresses or tuxes or like suits or engagement outfits, like anything style or hair and makeup is highly searched on Pinterest. So whether you're a wedding photographer, a planner, or a hairstylist or gown designer, I mean, these are really, really great niche boards for you to have because for me, they get a lot of clicks, and I'm not necessarily designing dresses, but it still creates inspiration or brings inspiration to my ideal client that is looking for an adventurous wedding, right? So I'm complementing my service, if that makes sense. And a little secret tip here about boards, when you go and create a new board on Pinterest, it's going to give you like this kind of I guess I would call it a quick create version of what you're capable of doing. So it only asks you for the board name, and then I think whether or not you want to keep it secret. So if you then create your board, but immediately go back and edit it, you're going to get a bunch of more like options for what you can do. So you can actually add a board description, and again, very similarly to your profile description, this is a great place to explain what the board is about without keyword stuffing, but taking the time to add your long tail keywords. And then you can also set a category for it. So I use weddings most of the time, but if you are a photographer or in food service, then you can also select those categories too. So definitely, if you have an account right now, go and edit your boards and take a look at what is on the back end of those boards. Maybe you've missed out on like this great extra searchability, because I had for several years until I figured that out. How's everybody doing so far? I hope this is making sense. I hope this is information that you maybe didn't know before. And we're going to get into a strategy. So this is kind of, gosh, I think this is probably the best part, honestly. I mean, the first part is really important. You have to know how to optimize your profile. Otherwise, no one's ever going to find you. But this is kind of my own weekly pinning strategy. So kind of like 5 things that we'll talk about here is pinning from a blog, from your blog, which I went over briefly, but I want to talk a little bit more about. Using your long tail keywords in your titles and descriptions. So we talked about that for boards. We're going to talk about it a little bit for pins. And then should you or should you not pin on multiple boards? We will discuss. Using a scheduler and focusing on 5 to 10 daily pins, which I know you're probably like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem like a lot. That's right, it's not, and it's super manageable. So let's start first with pinning from your blog. Now, the best way to get content that you own onto the Pinterest platform is pinning directly from your website, and more specifically from your blog. So what that looks like is, let's say you blog once a month. Well, all of the images that you've inserted into your blog have the power to go to Pinterest. And in order to do that, I use Tailwind, the scheduler, and they actually allow you to download a little like Chrome extension, so it makes it super easy to click on the images that you want to schedule, and then to add your title, your description, and what board they're going to, and then let them slowly leak out through the scheduler so that you're not bulk adding all of your images at once, which, as you know, Pinterest doesn't love, because what happens is that you put all of these images one week and then you're quiet for 3 weeks. So very similarly to Instagram, they love consistency. Now, if you don't want to use a scheduler, you can pin directly from the platform. So you can actually go on Pinterest and click create a new pin, and you'll be able to just drag and drop your images and add its own title, its own description, and most importantly, a unique URL. So you want to make sure that the URL is always, always, always going to your website or something that you own. Now, if the image that you're uploading is, let's say, some like a beautiful wedding dress that you want to showcase a certain style of, well, people want to look at that dress. They don't just want to go to your home page. So if they click on that image, make sure that that URL is not landing them on your contact form, but it is going to something that is going to be helpful and relate to that image. So that is why I say ideally these images should connect to a blog post. And on that blog post, you can share more information about that image, right? So what I do is I typically blog, we blog once a week, and we do a mix of like wedding tips, so tips for couples or best ofs or like 5 ways to, but we also do full wedding features of past weddings that we've done. So when I have a full feature like that, it's great because I know that I'm going to walk them through the wedding day, from getting ready to ceremony photos to detail shots to reception, and I know that I'm going to be uploading at least 20 plus photos. So again, the reason why I use a scheduler here is because I don't want all 20 of those photos to go out on the same day at the same time. I want them to slowly drip onto Pinterest, and so for people to, as they are searching for these images, like to pop up every so often. Now, the last thing I'll say about blogging, if you do not have any current blog posts or you don't plan to blog, don't worry. If you have anything on your website, any images or even old blogs, this is what's so great about Pinterest. It still becomes fresh content on the Pinterest platform because they've never seen these images before, as long, of course, as you haven't already uploaded them, way back when. But you can go back and pin something from, I don't know, 2017, as long as your title isn't, 2017 best wedding trends, because nobody is searching that anymore. But if it's just a wedding feature, but that dates from a long time ago, but you feel like the photos are still current enough that someone might like them, by all means, go and pin your old blog post. And even if you just have a wedding gallery, like a gallery of photos without a blog, but go ahead and pin those images too, because guess what? They're still going to send people back to your website. Now that that's taken care of, again, we're focusing on our long tail keywords. So we've already used them in our profile description. We've used them in our profile name. So continuing that theme, we're going to use them in our board titles and our pins. So I actually wanted to just show you this example at the top, the little stained glass moons. That's actually from my own wedding in 2017. Oh my God, was it 2017? Oh my God, my husband's gonna kill me. I don't know my own wedding anniversary. But here was my description of this. My title was Mini Stained Glass Moon Escort Cards for Celestial Wedding. Now it's a bit of a mouthful for a title, but here's where my keywords are long tail keywords. I have stained glass moon escort cards, or even just moon escort cards. And I have a popular search term that is celestial wedding. So those two things combined actually have generated a lot of clicks and a lot of views just from this post. So think of it like, really, what do you see in this image, and how can you turn it into a long tail keyword? So something obviously that's super searched in general are escort cards, right? So escort cards could have been the search term that people found this on, but if they were actually looking for a celestial wedding theme, detail information, they may have typed in moon escort cards. So I thought that was really cool there. And I mean, again, you never really know what your people are going to be searching for. So I think you just have to put yourself in their shoes and think, all right, if I were my ideal client, what would I type in that search bar to get to my image? You guys, I have so much to say about Pinterest. I could really talk about this all day. So I have to keep an eye on the time because I could go on forever. The next thing we're going to go over is whether or not you should pin to multiple boards. The answer is yeah, maybe, not sure. So, okay, let me explain. So, pin to multiple relevant boards. Here's what I mean by that. So this image actually here was pinned. I mean, it's not very obvious because it's the same image, the same numbers, and the same caption, but it was pinned to two different boards. But they did well because one of them was pinned to, I think, wedding hair and makeup inspiration, and one was pinned to rustic wedding inspiration. So I did not pin this to a recipes board, right? So once upon a time, Pinterest was saying, hey, pin all sorts of images, like all different categories, all different topics just to get traffic. Well, they've smartened up since and realized, like, hey, if you're a wedding vendor, you shouldn't be pinning about recipes, really. And a sidebar on that, if you do have a board right now that's personal, like recipes or workout videos or quotes, make it secret. Pinterest does, or move it to your a personal account. Pinterest doesn't want you to be pinning irrelevant stuff. So if you go through Pinterest and you're pinning recipes onto your wedding photography board, it does not know who you're trying to target. Therefore, it's not showing your information to your ideal clients. That being said, yes, I do think you can pin an image to multiple boards, but be strategic. And why I like pinning to multiple boards is because you get, I guess, more bang for your buck out of each image, right? So one image can go to multiple places, and different audience might see it. So someone who's following your hair and makeup board might not be following your rustic board because maybe they'll be a glam bride. I mean, who knows? So it is important to, I think, put one image on multiple boards. I try to limit each image to be less than 3 or 4 boards, to be honest. Okay, so how now do we make sure that Pinterest is just not another platform we have to spend hours and hours on? Well, guys, I mean, I hate to break it to you, but the answer is a scheduler. And like I mentioned before, Pinterest and Tailwind have a direct partnership. So you're not losing benefits with using a scheduler. Like, you're not getting penalized for using a scheduler. In fact, Pinterest is encouraging the use of Tailwind in order to do that. It's going to make your life a heck of a lot easier, and it's going to just streamline everything and make sure you are getting your content out there in a consistent way as opposed to just bulk adding. Not only that, but what I love about Tailwind is it does have what they call a smart schedule. And smart schedule tells you if you're doing something wrong. So if you are coming up a little too spammy, whether it be that you're putting it on too many multiple boards, or you're pinning one image onto too many boards, or you're reusing the same caption too often, the smart guide will tell you to change that. So I thought that was really cool. And by the way, it's free to use up to a certain number of pins. So if you just want to try it out, you could do so. I also have a link for $15 off that I hope I could just kind of put somewhere here in the below. But yeah, please just try it out. I think it's been a lifesaver for me. Last but not least, pin 5 to 10 fresh pins daily. So what that means is that you want to schedule out your pins, or your Tailwind basically, to release 5 to 10 fresh new pins. And we're going to talk about what a fresh new pin is here in a second in the best practices. But once upon a time, you had to pin like 50 pins a day on Pinterest to be successful. That is no longer the case. If you just focus on 5 to 10 really good ones a day, that makes it super manageable. Schedule those babies and you're good to go. All right, we're ready for some best practices. These have been updated actually in probably early 2020 when Pinterest came out with the 2020 best practices. And so they are still recommending vertical images which is a 2:3 ratio when you're creating them. I use Canva to create pins. Now, that being said, I have had horizontal images do really well. But the reason why they always say vertical is best is it does take up a little more real estate on the Pinterest homepage. So keep that in mind, but don't limit yourself to just vertical images if you have a really good horizontal. If you have a writer's block, and this is my own actually best practice, I just describe what I see in the photo. So for example, if I'm looking at a couple kissing by a lake, I will say couple, or I'll say actually probably something like bride wearing boho dress with long train, because remember, people like style and they like what certain attires and outfits are. So bride wearing long boho dress with train, kissing handsome groom in navy blue suit by a lake in Vancouver. Whatever you want that to look like. But if you're really stuck, again, it's not about storytelling so much as it is about describing what you see in an image, because people want to put in their search term and they want to get exactly what they are searching for in an image. Now, the Pin Fresh New Content Weekly, here's what that means. Pinterest came out, like I said, in early 2020 with the kind of announcement that their algorithm was changing and that the older pins were not going to do as well. So what I mean, I guess, is repinning your old images were not going to be doing as well. What they want is, yes, you can still repin old URLs, so you can still send people to old blog posts, but you must be creating new images. Now, an image can be a photo by itself, it can be a photo with text overlay, it could be a photo with a logo, it could be a video, it could be it's a series of things. So if you had a photo that did really well or that is currently doing really well, take that photo and modify it in several ways. Maybe create a collage with that photo and a couple others, or create a video, like an animated photo with that image, or put that photo and put text overlay on Canva. That's a way to create that photo into a new image. I hope that makes sense, because that's something I had listened to a couple webinars from Pinterest to clarify what it means to create a new photo or a new image. Use Tailwind Tribes. If you don't know what Tailwind Tribes is, I'm not going to go into it today, but it's basically a kind of a group board situation where your image has the potential to reach thousands and thousands of other people if someone from that tribe repins your image. Now, I have my own tribe. It's free to join. You're welcome to join it. I believe it's called Adventurous Weddings and Elopements. It is very niche because that is the kind of content that I am sharing on my profile. So unfortunately, I would never repin a ballroom wedding because that's not what my audience wants. So if you are in that adventurous wedding space, please DM me and I can send you the link. I believe it's also on Instagram in my link in bio. I have it there. But anyway, Tailwind Tribes is a way that you can get a little more action on your pins. And then, like I said earlier, play with text overlay and video pins. Video pins was a big one. There also is a new one called story pins. I won't go into that too much because it's story pins. It's kind of like a carousel. It's almost like, okay, well, actually, this makes sense. It's stories, like Instagram stories. It's a little bit like that, but you can click through it, and it's not a video. It's images. So it's kind of a carousel of images that if you are like showing a DIY project or a recipe, or those story pins work really well. I haven't had much success with those. Video pin has worked way better for me as a wedding pro. And the last one is use 3 hashtags or don't. I mean, I added the don't recently because there's been debate kind of in the Pinterest education space on whether or not they are still valid. Here's the thing, they're not going to do you any harm as of now. Pinterest has assigned a little more authority to hashtags over the last few years, so I still use them. I use 3 hashtags at the bottom of every pin caption that I write, and I try to write either a venue name from where the wedding was at, or something specific. Maybe it was like, for example, hashtag Navy suit. Like Navy suit was so popular for me last year. And anytime I did anything related to a Navy suit, it was booming. And I can't see that going away anytime soon. So test hashtags out. I really don't think they're going to hurt you, but if it's too much, you don't want to use them, then you know what? Don't worry about it. Oh, you guys, you did it. Like this is the perfect gift for how I feel right now because I hope you're exhilarated and not, overwhelmed. But I want to give you a few additional resources. One of them is my blog. So I have weekly blog posts that honestly walk you through a lot of Pinterest things, and some of them which we didn't even get into today. So if you are ready to dive deeper into Pinterest, by all means, please come over to the blog. It's gabbypinkerton.com //blog is how you get there directly. I also offer some free tips on my Instagram, which is at Gabby Pinkerton. And side note, every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, I go live for 15 minutes to answer any Pinterest question that you have. And if I don't know the answer, I will do the research and get back to you the following week. So that is literally your time to have kind of one-on-one mentorship with me in the Pinterest world. Please come by Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific. And last but not least, I have my own Pinterest masterclass for wedding pros, and I'm actually offering you guys a super special discount today. So if you're using the code Isle Academy, it drops down to $79. And basically what I walk you through is a kind of a deep dive and more, and actually more specifically on how to write your pin captions, because that's where people really struggle the most. Is like, okay, what is the strategy for writing this? So I came up with my own kind of 4-step process for this, and I found it to work really well. And I also give you a list of board titles that you can start with if you have no idea, and I give you some sample pin descriptions. So you could literally copy and paste those and change out words to make sense for your image. We talk about Tailwind a little bit more and how to use it. We talk about analytics and the ones that you should actually care about. And I even talk about how to find your long tail keywords, because I do think that's something that, I talked about it here, but it might be a little challenging for you to think about, well, I don't even know who my ideal client is, and I don't know how to find a keyword for them. So don't worry, you guys, we really do a deep dive with that in my Pinterest masterclass. So this offer is valid until December 1st. So jump on it while you can, because we are revamping again in 2021. And this is a course that I will keep updated every year. So we do talk again about the Pinterest trends and best practices for 2020, but the plan is to update them also in 2021 if anything happens or any other updates occur. So there you have it. Wow, I'm so honored that you guys let me come and share this information with you guys today. I seriously had a blast, and I hope you got a lot out of it. Again, if I'll pop in and answer any questions that I can, but if you have something specific or about anything that I talked about today, please don't hesitate to email me directly. It's hello@gabbypinkerton.com, and there you have it. I will see you guys soon, and enjoy the rest of the conference. I'm gonna hop into a few sessions myself. All right, you guys, have a great day.